Assalamu alaikum. You're watching Views in News and I'm Faisal Rehman live from our Islamabad studios. Today we'll be talking about this upcoming visit of the Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif to Turkey. He is going to go there on a 3-day official visit, and this is going to be the first visit of the Prime Minister to any foreign country ever since he held the office. Now this is the invitation given by the President of Turkey, Mr. Tayyip Erdogan. And as we all know that these two countries enjoy a very strong relationship, not only regarding trade and business, but also in the field of defense cooperation, and other than that, regarding the infrastructure development. If you remember, the motorway from Islamabad to Peshawar was also constructed by the Turkish company, and a lot has been happening, whether you talk about the waste management in Pindi or in Lahore. Turkish companies were also involved. Now the Prime Minister is primarily going there to look after the existing investment opportunities and to enhance trade in particular. But we'll be talking about this. But before I introduce you to our panelists, our production team has prepared a report. Let's watch that first.
Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif is embarking on a 3-day official visit to Turkey on Tuesday to further boost friendly ties with the brotherly country. Prime Minister's visit to Turkey is part of a series of Pakistan's renewed bilateral engagements with its traditional trusted friends and brotherly countries. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif's visit to Turkey is also coinciding with 75 years of diplomatic relations between the two countries. During his stay in Ankara, the Prime Minister will hold meetings with Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and Ministers of Foreign Affairs, Health and Trade. Shehbaz Sharif will also hold meetings with Turkish investors and Pakistan-Turkey Business Forum. Minister of Information and Broadcasting Mariam Aurangzeb also declared this visit as important not only for the development of bilateral relations but also for cooperation in investment, trade, health, education, culture and other areas of mutual interest. Earlier, on 28 May 2022, the Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif in delegation-level talks with Turkish Minister of National Defense extended his heartfelt gratitude to the government and people of Turkey for their strong commitment in helping Pakistan develop robust institutions like Karachi Shipyard, which has been transformed into profit-earning organization over the years due to the Turkish support. On the other hand, Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, on the sidelines of ministerial meeting on global food security call to action held in New York, met with his Turkish counterpart, expressed commitment to work together to enhance economic cooperation and unleash the full potential of Pakistan-Turkey trade relations.
Now to talk about this, we have with us in our studio, on my right is Ambassador Nasir Ali Khan Saab, Senior Diplomat. Sir, thank you very much for your time, Nasir Saab. And we have with us on Skype Dr. Adil Sultan. He's the Dean, Head of Department, Strategic Studies, Air University. Dr. Saab, pleasure to have you, sir. Thank you so much for your time also. Yeah. But let me start off from you, Ambassador Saab. Turkey has always been important and Turkey will remain important. So I think they have always supported Pakistan, whether you talk about the Kashmir cause or otherwise. They have stood with us in thick and thin. Now, sir, the regime has changed. Now we have a new Prime Minister in place, and Shehbaz Sharif is in fact holding this particular office for the first time. His brother has been there for 3 times, but the relationship, sir, really doesn't affect whosoever is in the government because the state policy is very clear. This particular 3-day official visit now, sir, under the given circumstances, how important is that? And the major areas where the two leaders will be focusing, perhaps it is going to be about energy, it is going to be about technology, maybe helicopter deals or perhaps some frigates, which we have earlier taken. Drone technology of Turkey is one of the best in the world, sir. And other than that, infrastructure development, and also when you talk about waste management, that is something of prime importance, sir. Your take.
Well, as you said, the ties between Pakistan and Turkey have been very strong since literally generations. If you go back to the time of the Khilafat movement, or you look at Turkey's War of Independence between 1919 and 1924, from that time the Muslims of South Asia supported financially and morally the independence movement in Turkey, and the Turks have been valuing this incident or this initiative that was taken here from that time. And then since modern Pakistan, the day that Pakistan was formed, Turkey was one of the first countries to recognize Pakistan and to support its membership at the United Nations. After that, all the governments that have come, whether they are military governments or civilian governments, the relationship has been at the very top. So
Correct.
they are one of our most loyal friends. And the relationship is, of course, these days, the economy matters a lot, and the purpose of the visit is to enhance economic ties, to enhance trade and investment opportunities. But our relationship is political, it's also military, it is cultural, and it's economical. So if you were talking about the military relationship, we have had more than 1,500 military personnel that have been trained in Turkey in the F-16 upgradation.
Yes.
From the naval point of view, we are buying almost $1.5 billion worth of certain ships from Turkey for the Navy. And now the T-129 in 2018, the T-129 attack
Helicopters,
helicopter is another deal which is about worth $1.5 billion. So after China, Turkey becomes our second largest supplier of military hardware. So that's the, apart from that, of course, I must mention we've had military exercises in the Mediterranean.
So the participation
as
on 23rd March is also
yeah,
very significant.
And in the Arabian Sea. So these are the military ties. Culturally, you can see that, dramas like Ertugrul or Mera Sultan, and, these are dubbed into Urdu and they are so popular.
Oh
in
yes,
Pakistan.
indeed.
So they're very, very strong cultural ties. Our people visit Turkey more than probably any other country these days. They're very fond of going to places like Istanbul and Konya and Ankara or Izmir and places like that. That is another area where I feel that the Prime Minister ought to talk to the Turks in cooperating and in investing in the tourism sector in Pakistan. Because you see, a lot of people I've heard say that unless and until you have alcohol and nightclubs or something, you will not be able to develop Pakistan's tourism sector. But in Turkey, for instance, most of the people that go there are Muslims, and it's a very, very tolerant society. It's very diverse society, and they have been catering to Muslim tourists. And we can learn a lot from them, and their organizations, their businesses have a tremendous opportunity to invest in the tourist sector in Pakistan. Apart from that, of course, the infrastructure projects, as you say, we would be very keen to involve the Turks in CPEC, have them invest in special economic zones here so that they can get easier access to markets which are closer to
education
Pakistan.
again, sir. A lot of students from Pakistan, they go to Turkey for higher education.
Yes.
So that is also
and
very
then there is a
significant, yes.
great tradition of aid and assistance. 2005 earthquake, 2010 floods. They were helping us in terms of hundreds of millions of dollars, $150 million. Way back in 1999 when they had their earthquake, our Prime Minister was the first one to visit along with the assistance that we provided. So I mean, these are just, they're multifarious areas in which we cooperate. And one of the most important things, of course, is politically, Turkey recognizes our right for a plebiscite, Kashmiri's right for a plebiscite, and considers Jammu and Kashmir to be a part of Pakistan. This is a very, very important thing.
So diplomatic support has always been there for Pakistan. Yeah, that's correct. So now let's go to Dr. Adil Sultan Saab. And Dr. Saab, tell us about the visit, the significance as earlier mentioned by our very dear guest, Ambassador Nasir Ali Khan Saab. Now your take, sir, important areas regarding the discussion between the two leaders. Perhaps, when I go through the details, we have learned that the Turkey modernizing Pakistan's submarine fleet, Turkey building warships for Pakistan Navy, Turkey and Pakistan signed contract to develop drones, the UAVs, Pakistan-Turkey jointly developing fifth generation fighter jet, that's called TFX, and then round of Pakistan-Turkey high-level military dialogue. So it seems that other than the economic relationship, the military to military relationship is also very, very significant and very important. Turkey has the largest army in NATO, sir. We do understand that, and it's a very strong force too. And historical ties with Pakistan, I think that should not be, should not be left, but should be taken into account. And perhaps the most important part is that these two Muslim countries are also celebrating the 75th year of the ties between the two countries. Let's start off from there, sir.
Faisal Saab, you're absolutely right. Almost the Ambassador Saab and you have touched most of the issues that are important between India, Turkey, and Pakistan. If with Turkey, what I have seen, because I was recently, about 2 weeks back, I was part of a delegation, academics. We went to Turkey and we interacted with 3 of the universities and a think tank. One thing that you feel once you visit Turkey is that you don't have to introduce yourself. So they know Pakistanis so well, and there is so much trust for the Pakistanis in Turkey that you can just start your conversation on whatever topic, and you see there is so much of convergence of interest amongst the academics also and at the think tank level also. I think that is a very strong base for both countries to start with and to work in many things. Like you have identified many, I would also like to mention over here the diplomatic convergence that Turkey and Pakistan has on almost all the issues, whether they are political issues, the security issues, the matters related to United Nations. I've seen our diplomats and Turkish diplomats working collectively. One example that I would like to highlight before I talk something about the military collaboration. Turkey was one country which supported Pakistan's principled stance on the nuclear suppliers group membership also. As you would know, when exemptions were being created for our neighbor by a major power, there are not many countries who were willing to stand with Pakistan. And Turkey was amongst those countries that stood on principles and supported Pakistan's position on the membership issue of the nuclear suppliers group.
Even on
Now, once
FATF.
even on FATF. So, like I said, there's convergence almost on all the issues between Turkey and Pakistan, and you don't have to argue with them or clear your position because they understand Pakistan very well. Like Pakistan, Turkey also faces similar kind of challenges also, the refugees and the security issues, their dilemma towards the West because they are part of NATO also and those kind of things. So that strategic culture is somewhat similar to what Pakistan's strategic culture or strategic thought process is. So that also gives you strength or brings both countries together. Now, in terms of military, once you see, we have seen lots of collaboration recently, but if you see the history, their pilots were working on cross-posting to Pakistan. Our pilots were training their students also. So that was the kind of trust and collaboration between the Air Force. Likewise, the military exercise, the army exercise, the naval exercises. Now we have heard about this joint production of aircraft between Turkey and Pakistan. I think Turkey has phenomenal experience, and we have this aviation city in Kamra. So that's a big infrastructure where both countries can collaborate and benefit for mutual interest also. And on the submarines and the ships, we are seeing recently. So coming specific to Prime Minister visit, another interesting thing about Turkey is no matter who is in power in Pakistan or in Turkey, there's no breakdown of relationship or thought process from where to start. It's a continuation of relationship or collaboration between the two countries, and that's very important to maintain. I think the visit of Prime Minister would be in the same vein, and I think it will give further boost to whatever is happening on the military collaboration side or the political side between the two countries.
All right. Now, Nasir, another very important factor. Pakistan gave them the rights, for example, the kind of routes which we had, like which PIA had, were given to the Turkish Airlines. And I think one of the best airlines in the world, if you compare, I think for sure among the top 5. The airport they have built is out of the world, sir.
In
So
Istanbul.
exactly, and they understand exactly the way forward, exactly what UAE did, or even what Qatar did. Good airlines, that always promotes lots of tourism, and obviously you become the hub, the center. Now, so one important factor, it says that Turkey can provide a land corridor to Pakistani exports into Europe. Obviously, when we talk about cost of doing business, the rates of electricity, that they've also gone up. Fuel prices will further go up in the future because of various reasons. And Pakistan is an oil importing country. But sir, at least the goods should be delivered on a certain price. So this particular phenomena, I think, can really help well. There was also a very interesting concept that, you know, there's going to be a railway line from Pakistan via Iran into Turkey. So this seems to be something really important if it is done on time.
Yes, extremely. You see, going back to the times like 1964, we made the RCD between Iran, Turkey, and Pakistan. And if you remember, talk of the RCD highway and the RCD railway. So from that time, there has been an attempt. There are certain issues, technical issues, for example, that when you cross from Pakistan into Iran, the gauge
Railway line,
changes one is narrow and the other one is wider. So that is a technical challenge. But since then, if you look at ECO, for example, the ECO consists of 10 countries, which include Iran, Turkey, all the Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Azerbaijan and all. Again, one of the primary purposes or aims is connectivity. The third thing, of course, is we are both part of the Belt and Road Initiative. So again, connectivity is important. And then Turkey has been trying to become a part of the European Union for quite some time. There are certain issues and they are often opposed by the Greeks. If you remember, there was this so-called occupation of northern Cyprus.
Cyprus, yeah.
And since then, the Greeks have been trying to block the entry of Turkey into Europe. But it is a very natural thing for Europe to incorporate Turkey, especially as it is already a NATO member, which is, you know, again, extremely important for the Turks. So once they do manage to achieve a membership in the European Union, then along with this connectivity, it provides tremendous opportunities for Pakistani investors to invest in Turkey and have free access to the markets of Europe. So as you mentioned, this is an extremely important thing, and this is something where it's a win-win situation where everybody would benefit from that. Of course, right now, from an international point of view, Iran is a sanctioned state. So if, again, the JCPOA is successful and reinstated, then these avenues will open up further.
100%, 100%. Look at European Union, the way they are interconnected. I think that is another great example. Even African countries are working on the same lines. But when it comes to this particular region, when it comes to Pakistan or South Asia, perhaps the problem between Pakistan and India is the real issue. That is, again, one of the reasons SARC, the kind of potential SARC had, it could not do much. But sir, we've also been joined in by Hasan Abdullah Saab, correspondent TRT World. Hasan, assalamu alaikum and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so Hasan, obviously you are a very major member of the TRT group. Now, tell us about this particular visit of the Prime Minister, how to go forward from here, sir? Because Shehbaz Sharif Saab, being the Prime Minister, this is his first official visit to any country. So obviously it holds a lot of significance. Your take?
That's right. There's this symbolism, but at the same time, I think there is this hope that something substantial is going to come out of this. I think the focus is going to be on the economy, on bilateral trade. Remember, the two countries have been trying to work on the free trade agreement for quite some time. There's been some hurdles there. They want to increase bilateral trade volume, which at the moment is slightly above $500 million. And, you know, they've been talking about the potential to take it up to at least a couple of $1 billion in the coming few years. So that is on the schedule. Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif is expected to meet the business community in Turkey. He's going to be meeting with not just President Erdogan, but the Turkish cabinet, discussing a host of issues. Primary focus, again, would be on the economy. They're also going to discuss defense cooperation. Remember, the two countries have identified a number of areas for defense cooperation. So it's expected to be quite a comprehensive visit. And also it comes in the context of the 75th anniversary of diplomatic relations between the two countries.
Areas, when you talk about economic diplomacy, obviously we have seen that Turkey's economy has really grown significantly during the last 20 years, 2 decades post 9/11. Once there was a time when Turkish exports were lesser than that of Pakistan. Now it's well over $150 billion, if I'm not wrong. And it's multifaceted. I mean, if you look at it from tourism to manufacturing, from manufacturing to defense, from defense to transit, you name it. And I think Turkey is a great example in that region. What can we learn from them?
I think there are quite a few lessons that we can sort of derive from this. One is institution building. If you look at the Turkish experience, especially if you look at the state of Turkey back in the 1990s and how President Erdogan and his AK Party sort of transformed the country after 2002. There was a comprehensive process of institution building. I think we can learn lessons from that. Also how corruption had been one of the challenges in Turkey not too long ago. And the present government seems to have been quite successful in tackling that as well. So again, that's perhaps something Pakistan can learn from. There's always this benefit in sharing information. And also, if you look at, for example, infrastructure development in Turkey, again, back in the 90s, there were huge infrastructure challenges. But now, if you look at the connectivity in Turkey, not just domestically, but also with neighboring countries, again, there is this substantial construction experience that Turkish companies bring. And I think perhaps Turkey would be interested in working on development projects here in Pakistan.
All right. Now, coming to you, Dr. Adil Sultan Saab, obviously currently the economy of Pakistan isn't that great. There is a global economic crunch, primarily because of the COVID-19 for about 2.5 years. Now look at the rising prices of petroleum products, and then the deal between IMF and Pakistan also is going to affect the economy in the shorter term. Fuel prices, electricity prices, cost of doing. I mean, everything is interlinked. So a lot of people are also fearing that the inflation is going to go up. Interest rates, they're already very high at 13.75%. They will further go up. And there is going to be a lot of economic challenges for the current government for the next 6 months to 1 year. Now, how can Turkey help out Pakistan in this regard? I'm not saying that they should give us some aid or they should deposit a certain amount of money in our state bank or something similar, but real concrete measures that can really support Pakistan. So, for example, one area which is very vital and very important is about the human development, for example, sir. That is, I think, some very important, perhaps I would say, the most important area where the Turkish can help Pakistan. Again, the friendly nature of these two countries, the people are pretty close to each other. There was a time when a lot of people were investing in UAE. Now the trend has changed. People are going to Turkey to study. They are buying properties out there. So that connection also holds the key. Your take, sir?
Turkey is an interesting example because if we see Turkish economy is also under stress these days. They have more than $60 billion of debt. Lira has depreciated. There are some, inflation is high in Turkey. So if you, as once we were there, so we were interacting with the academics and also with the think tanks. They were voicing these concerns about, but Turkish economy is resilient. The fact is that they have focused on industrialization. Now they're producing many things, and if you see, you rightly mentioned about human development because they focused on human development, and that is how they were able to progress towards industrialization also. And if we see now Turkish export potential, we have a roughly trade of around little over $6 million from Turkey to Pakistan and around $400 million to Turkey. So it's almost a trade of bilateral trade of little over $1 billion, which is not much. But if you see Turkish industrial potential, and if you see in Pakistan these days, especially the construction industry, and if you see electronics, I think we need to learn a lot from Turkey. We can invest on these issues. We can have Turkish industries coming to Pakistan, investing in these issues, because Turkish product in terms of quality, I think if you match, they are closer to European standards, and that is why these are being preferred over other countries. So that's one area that we can work and learn from Turkey, how to build that or rebuild our economy or infrastructure where we can have long-term dividends.
Now, another very important factor, sir, since you were talking about the industrial development in Turkey, that has given a lot of boost to their exports, and obviously they're producing quality products. How about agriculture side, sir?
Absolutely, agriculture also. Turkey is self-sufficient in many things. It is exporting to many other countries, and if you see their agricultural products, they are liked in many European countries, and it's a good export. It earns good revenue for Turkey. So that's also an important area where we can share our best practices, learn from each other, because we have certain strengths, but we can always learn more from our Turkish friends over there. So agriculture is definitely an important, because this is there's a global crisis, a food crisis after Ukraine and things like in Europe also. If you see, there is shortage of food products. So this is one area where we can both work, Pakistan and Turkey.
All right. Now, Nasir, obviously, I was very happy to learn that Turkish olive production, that particular produce is very important, and they have really mastered the art. Forget about Spain or Italy in that regard, but Turkey is doing really, then exports of that. And we have also learned that in Pakistan now, a lot of people are planting olive trees, though it takes a lot of time to grow to that level where you can have the right produce, but we have learned from them. But say at the same time, when you talk about the current global prices, I've also learned that Turkish agriculture sector has really improved over a period of time, and per acre yield has been increasing consistently and constantly. Whereas in Pakistan, sir, despite all odds, we are still stagnant, number one. So that is one area where we can learn a lot from them also. Secondly, sir, the actual question which I wanted, because I want you to comment on this, and the second part is, so when we talk about tourism, and you rightly mentioned that people used to go to Dubai or other places, or Far East perhaps. Now Turkey is the new hot destination. People are friendly, they have got beautiful beaches, historical, the Muslim, that phenomena that exists there, the historical buildings and everything. I mean, beautiful place to go to. But sir, people go from Pakistan to Turkey, but I do not see many people from Turkey coming to Pakistan. Don't you think, sir, this people-to-people contact at various levels, whether it's about tourism, it's about education, students coming in from Turkey and doing a semester in Pakistan, some sort of a collaboration between various universities. So that's how you grow. I still remember, Nasir Sahab, there was a time when a lot of students from the G6 countries, from African countries used to come to Pakistan. I can give you an example of UET Lahore for that matter. So many foreigners, but now that particular phenomena doesn't exist to that level, sir.
Well, in answer to your first question, you see there are three important things that we can learn from the Turks. One, of course, is the way that they were able to lift up their economy and increase their exports.
Indeed.
If you have the example of Malaysia, for instance, We need to go and learn from countries like Malaysia and Turkey the whole story about the economic development. But the difference between us and Turkey is the level of education, higher education, technical expertise, technical education, and then of course infrastructure. When you talk about agriculture, for example, if our farmers are progressive and taught modern techniques, our output can be 3 times what it is now. So it's a question of training and literacy levels and education and the use of technology. Having said that, there are 2 other reasons for Turkey's progress. One is that their foreign policy has been pragmatic. They have made friends all over the world. You talked about their airline. Their airline probably services more cities and countries than even Emirates Airlines. So very often when you want to go to a small town in Italy or something, you will find that you can get a connection from Istanbul. So infrastructure development is very, very important. The other advantage they have had is that they are sitting right next to one of the biggest markets in the world, which is the European Union. People who are well off, and initially Turkish labor was low priced in the sense it was cheaper, and therefore they were able to develop industry which was so competitive that they could export huge amounts of product to Europe. And of course,
on cheaper prices.
Of course, because of the cheaper labor. Now it is not so necessarily, but since then, once they have the base, once they have the industry, then they can maintain this. This recent crisis of the lira falling by about 30%,
oh, yes,
actually gives them an advantage to be able to become more competitive and export more. Now your question about tourism.
People-to-people contact.
People-to-people contact is very, very important. But as far as tourism is concerned, there have been 2 issues. One, that compared to Turkey, for example, where the Ottoman Empire was actually in control of the holy sites of Mecca and Medina also. So a lot of the very famous and invaluable artifacts reside in places like Topkapi, the Topkapi Palace and Museum.
The expansion of Kaaba,
yes.
I mean, you can see the Turkish architecture.
But you see, people go there to see these artifacts, that this was the robe that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam wore, or this was the stick they claim that Moses used to
Religious tourism.
Religious tourism. Now, the other factor that has prevented Pakistan from improving is the recent problem of terrorism that we've had. So it picks up after a while, once you have peace in the region. And finally, Turkey is placed on the way to the United States or to Europe, and therefore if somebody who's a tourist from China, for instance, again due to connectivity, will stop in Istanbul and have a layover there for a few days, look at the sites, and then move on to other places. In Pakistan, we don't have a similar situation. If you remember, there was a time when Karachi was a major hub for the airlines.
So your KLM, Lufthansa,
exactly.
you name it, and
now
they were
we
there.
don't have that kind of connectivity. So that's the other reason that as many tourists do not come from Turkey, because if they were, for instance, on their way to famous destinations like Bali or Bangkok or whatever, and Pakistan were
the right place to land first.
Stopover, you would have more tourism. But the fact is that you are absolutely right. Any relationship between 2 nations, the single most important thing is people-to-people contact. And if you can't have it through tourism, I would say it's important to have it through investments, through opportunities, creating industries on both sides and stakes on both sides.
And I think
there
is so much to learn. So we were the so-called the non-NATO ally during this war on terror, starting from 2000 onwards and recently, I mean still there by the way, the problem does exist. Those 20-22 years, I think we were engaged in a different phenomena, whereas Turkish, though their geopolitical issues were much worse than that of Pakistan, so their issue with, for example, Libya and Asia
Syria,
for that matter,
with
Syria
the
issue,
Kurdistan movement.
even Russia, and then Turkmenistan for that matter, and then what happened in, during the latest time, Armenia and all, plus European Union. They are the NATO members, but they are not the EU members. So that is again a challenge for them. Plus, the moment they decided to sell helicopters to Pakistan, the Americans had, forced them not, they were not giving them the engines, simple as that. So yes, they have issues, they have problems, but I think Turkish leadership, I think hats off to them. They've done a brilliant job in taking Turkey out of that, and today I think Turkey is one of the leading economies. You talk about for example, this new phenomena of mint, where you talk about Mexico, Indonesia, Nigeria and Turkey, other than BRICS. So I think that is pretty significant. Now coming to you, Hasan Saab, one important factor, since you are somebody who's been reporting for that channel, which is one of the major brands now, I would say, in the world, TRT. Now, first of all, sir, the geopolitical challenges of Turkey and the geopolitical challenges of Pakistan. Now it's a part of our national security policy that will be moving from geopolitics or geostrategic issues to geoeconomics. I think Turkish government also faced something very similar, but I think hats off to them and to their resilience that they finally achieved during the last 20 years where they wanted to be. So the similarities, let's do SWOT analysis in this case, and what can we learn from them? Hasan?
Well, you're right. I think it's fair to say that Turkey's focus remains at the moment on its economic relations and economy. But at the same time, there are a number of security challenges, especially in the neighborhood,
Yes.
that continue to remain. And I think, there is some degree of similarity if you compare the two countries. For example, the challenge that emerges from the Syrian branch of the PKK terrorist organization, the YPG. And this is one of the reasons why Turkey has recently said that it's going to basically block the joining of Sweden and Finland in NATO, because these two countries, Turkey says, continue to provide support to YPG. So there are security challenges. And I think, if you look at Pakistan's experience in dealing with various terrorist organizations, how Pakistan carried out the military operation in 2014, there are certain similarities that Turkey carried out operations to carve out a sort of safe zone in Syria to push back some of these terrorist organizations. There are similarities, and this is where the two countries have identified avenues of security cooperation. I understand there has been exchange on that as well over the last few years, especially post-2016. There was technical collaboration between the two countries. So there is still quite a lot which is similar, and now they feel that there is a lot of scope when it comes to defense cooperation, especially when it comes to, for example, the Turkish drones, when it comes to submarines. We know the two countries have been working together. The trainer jets that Pakistan has been producing, Turkey has been interested in that. So there is quite a lot of scope beyond economics as well.
All right. Now, something pretty similar to you, Dr. Adil Sultan. As I earlier, we were talking about this economics formula, because I think these are all interlinked. It's not a transfer from one to another and then to geoeconomics. I think geopolitics is a part of geoeconomics, and they're all interlinked. But the way Turkey has, in fact, I would say, passed this test, that is phenomenal. Obviously, they do not have the kind of neighborhood which we have, where we have aggressors on almost every side. We have India on our east, then Afghan issue, which is still pending. That is again another problem, and that country isn't doing much. I mean, they do not have the capacity, and it seems they do not even have the will. That is a separate chapter. Then Iran, which is under heavy sanctions. We can't do much. Normally, when you talk about the neighboring countries, We hardly have any trade with India. With Afghanistan, well, half of it is in the form of smuggling, or very less is documented. With Iran, it's not even $500 million, whereas I still remember about 15, 14 years ago, we sent rice worth of $1.2 billion, only rice to our neighbor. But now, sir, everything seems to be shrinking. We are importing 20% pulses are what we produce here, 80% of the total amount of pulses we import. Look at the shortage regarding wheat, for that matter. Obviously, the global issue is there. Ukraine-Russia war is a major component, I would say, that is again going to hit the agriculture, because 70% of the fertilizer is produced in Russia. Almost 29-30% wheat is produced in Ukraine and Russia. So regarding the supply, and there's so much going on. But sir, having said that, as far as geopolitics is concerned and geoeconomics is concerned, so what can we learn? Because that is your particular field, Dr. Saab.
Thank you. I think this is very important. There's one important lesson that we need to learn from Turkey: how to maintain balance in national priorities and balance in international relations. So they have been able to manage that at the domestic level. On the international level, is very important. As you would see, Turkey is a NATO country. It's part of the NATO as a military alliance, but at the same time, it also purchases S-400 from Russia. And Turkey doesn't want to deteriorate its relationship with Russia also, but it is also providing drones to Ukraine, which are being used against Russia. So that's the kind of policy Turkey is maintaining at the international level. That is to maintain balance amongst all international power, not to drift to one extreme or to the other. So that is, I think, one important lesson that we need to learn from Turkey. And second, if you allow me, I think you rightly pointed about tourism, but I would just say a very interesting episode. We met a family in Turkey, Istanbul, who were there on destination wedding over there. So that's the new trend in Pakistan, of course, for the elites. Something not to be promoted, because we are not very rich country, but that's the kind of influence culture has, the Turkish dramas and everything. Now that people have started to move to Turkey for these kind of activities also, again, not to be supported. But I would also like to highlight one of the challenges that could become contentious between Turkey and Pakistan is the issue of illegal immigrants that the two governments they have to resolve. Based on our interactions with the Turkish academia, they are quite worried about the many people moving from Pakistan through Iran to Turkey for onwards to Europe. I think this needs to be curbed, because it is creating bad blood. It is creating distaste between the relations of two countries. So that's one important issue. I think the government, during the visit and during the talks, they should be able to develop some mechanism where we should be able to provide those kind of assurances that this trend is minimized, the issue of illegal immigrants. And one important aspect that probably could be also be important, I think, as you mentioned, the students, Pakistani students going to Turkish universities, what I've seen, some of our universities are equally good. So what we should do is offer opportunities to Turkish students for exchange programs in Pakistan. I think that's the kind of initiatives that we need to launch now for future, because that's, if the students start to come to Pakistan, I'm sure they will interact more, they will learn about our culture. And
exactly, seeing is believing. Absolutely, sir. Spot on, Dr. Saab. Thank you very much, sir, for your time. Hasan, Abdullah, thank you very much for your time as well. And Nasir, thank you so much, sir, that you came to our studio, and we learned a lot. And that's all we have for this hour. Inshallah, I'll see you tomorrow at 8:05 p.m. Till then, you take good care. Khuda Hafiz.